Welcome to the deep dive. We're about to get into something pretty fundamental today. It's reshaping healthcare, yeah, but not just in the hospitals you might think of. We're going right back to the start, to how future doctors and nurses actually learn their craft. Our sources today, all focused on AI for medical education. How it's really transforming training for healthcare providers.
And that transformation is, well, it's incredibly significant. Can't really overstate it. I mean, the quality of medical education, that directly shapes the quality of care that, all of us eventually receive. So, yeah, our mission here is to pull out the key insights from this material to really understand what AI means for that next generation coming through.
Okay, Red, let's unpack that a bit. Before we get into AI as the solution, what are the main challenges? What problems in traditional medical education do these sources keep highlighting? Why is this change even needed?
Well, what you see again and again in the research is this kind of gap, a real gap between the theory and the actual practice. Traditional methods, they often load up on theoretical knowledge, which is vital, obviously, but sometimes that sidelines the really crucial real-world stuff, things like nuanced clinical reasoning, or clear, empathetic patient communication, or just the skill of making a differential diagnosis when things aren't clear-cut. And then there's the access issue, limited access to top instructors or advanced simulation tech, or even just a wide variety of patient cases. That's especially tough in, say, resource-constrained areas. So students might, technically know the material, but feel kind of unprepared for that first real patient interaction.
That makes a lot of sense. Knowing the textbook answer is one thing, but applying it under pressure, totally different ballgame.
Yeah.
So AI is stepping in specifically to bridge that gap, the theory to practice one.
Exactly. That's the core idea. AI isn't just, a fancy new gadget. It genuinely offers the potential for learning that's much more personalized, more interactive. And crucially, it's data-driven. It tracks how a student is actually doing. The big theme across these sources is really augmentation, using AI to boost what educators can do and really empower the students themselves. Actually, there's a whole chapter in one source just listing out the different AI use cases that are, already out there.
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating for me. You give us some specific examples, like what are the really impactful ways AI is being used right now to change how people learn medicine?
Yeah, definitely. One of the biggest ones popping up everywhere is virtual patient simulators. And think way beyond those, basic plastic mannequins. These are complex AI programs. They simulate really realistic clinical encounters, from taking a patient's history, doing an exam, figuring out the diagnosis. It lets students practice those core diagnostic skills and communication skills, too, in a totally safe space. They can try things, make mistakes without any real-world harm, learn to anticipate problems. There's actually a great little anecdote in one source. A resident felt way more confident doing a lumbar puncture, a pretty high-stakes procedure. Why? Because they'd practiced it over and over on a virtual simulator first. That kind of safe repetition. It's gold.
Wow. Practicing a lumbar puncture virtually before you do it for real, I can see how that builds confidence. And competence, too. You mentioned personalization earlier as well. How does that work?
Yes, that's another huge area. Personalized learning paths. So instead of everyone moving at the same pace through the same material, AI can actually adapt. It looks at how a student is performing, pinpoints their strengths, their weaknesses, and based on that analysis, it tailors the learning path. Maybe offers extra help on tricky topics or more advanced stuff if they're flying through. This kind of focused approach helps students really get a deep grasp of complex ideas. And importantly, it builds their confidence because they're mastering exactly what they need to work on.
So it's not just one tool. Are there other specific AI applications the sources mention? Things that work alongside these?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, beyond the simulators and the personalized paths, they talk about AI systems for procedural skills assessment, like AI that can watch a student perform a simulated exam step and give instant feedback, something a busy instructor might miss. There are also intelligent tutoring systems. Think of them as like an AI mentor available 24/7 to guide students through tricky cases. And then for postgraduate training, there are AI-powered standard patient systems. These let residents practice those complex patient interactions, refine their reasoning. Basically, the common thread is moving beyond just learning facts. AI is helping students apply knowledge in very practical, skill-focused ways.
Right. It sounds like it's all geared towards a much more hands-on, individually focused way of learning. So what are the big picture benefits? What do the sources say this AI approach really delivers?
Well, they point to quite a few compelling advantages. First, enhanced learning. Students just seem to learn better, retain more with these interactive methods. And critically, it seems to really improve those vital skills. We mentioned clinical reasoning, patient communication. That naturally leads to more confident students. They feel better prepared when they hit the wards. And, like we touched on, in places with fewer resources, these simulations offer training access that just wouldn't exist otherwise. So ultimately, it's about really transforming that whole learning journey, making it more effective, more empowering for the student.
And connecting that back to you, the listener, what this suggests is that the doctors and nurses you encounter in the future, they could be more skilled, more assured, partly because of how AI helped train them. But okay, implementing this, especially somewhere huge and diverse like India, which the sources discuss quite a bit, that sounds like a massive challenge, right? How do they suggest actually, tackling that implementation?
It's definitely a big undertaking, yeah. The sources lay out some key steps. First off, you need data. Good data, textbooks, study materials, yes, but also real clinical data anonymized, of course, to train the AI models properly. Then you actually have to develop the AI, build those virtual patient models, those personalization algorithms. That takes expertise. And you need the right infrastructure. The sources suggest cloud-based systems might be the way to go for accessibility and scaling it up across a large country.
And India specifically must have some unique hurdles beyond just the tech build.
Absolutely. The sources are pretty specific here. Multi-language support is, well, it's non-negotiable. Given the linguistic diversity in India, systems can't just be in English. They need to work effectively in regional languages. They also have to be culturally sensitive. Avoid jargon or scenarios that just wouldn't make sense in the local context. Accessibility for students with disabilities is another key point. Can't leave anyone behind. And of course, data privacy and security are absolutely paramount. You're dealing with student data, potentially sensitive clinical scenarios. Then you've got the practical stuff. Existing tech infrastructure might vary wildly. Cost effectiveness is crucial for wide adoption. And, digital literacy isn't uniform among educators or students.
Wow. So it's really not just about coding the AI. It's about making it fit the specific environment, the culture, the users, deeply embedding it.
Exactly. It has to be contextually appropriate. The roadmap suggested for India in the sources reflects that. It talks about a phased approach. Start with pilot projects, learn what works, refine things. A really critical step is standardizing medical data formats, making sure that includes handling regional languages properly, and collaboration is key. Medical schools, tech companies, government bodies, they all need to work together. Plus, you absolutely have to invest in training, not just for students, but for the educators who will be using these tools. They need to be comfortable, too. Developing clear ethical guidelines right from the start is also essential. And they mention leveraging existing national initiatives like the AUGMENT digital mission, India's digital health project. That could provide a useful backbone.
One thing that seems really clear throughout this discussion is this isn't about AI replacing people in the classroom or the clinic.
No, absolutely not. And the sources hammer this point home repeatedly. It's a central theme. AI, in this context, is explicitly designed to augment human ability, to enhance it. Think of it as a powerful mentor, a sophisticated tool to improve learning, practice, feedback. It is categorically not presented as a substitute for that vital student-teacher relationship, or for the essential experience of learning from real patients under supervision. The goal is to make the human teacher more effective, the student better equipped, not to push humans out.
Okay. So if we bring all this together, what's the big picture? What does this shift in medical education really mean for healthcare's future?
Well, I think it signifies a pretty profound change in how we prepare healthcare professionals. By giving them these tailored, interactive, practical learning experiences early on, AI is helping equip them better. Equipping them with the skills, yes, but also the confidence they need for modern medicine, which is incredibly complex. It helps bridge that persistent gap between knowing the information and actually doing the job effectively. Ultimately, this should lead to better prepared professionals entering the field, and that, logically, should translate into better patient care, better outcomes. We're basically seeing the groundwork being laid for a healthcare system that's smarter, more adaptive, yes, but also one where the professionals are trained from the start to be both highly skilled and deeply human-centered.
We've talked a lot about how AI can help create these highly skilled, very confident future doctors and nurses through tailored, practical learning. But as this tech gets woven more tightly into their training fabric, here's something to think about. How do we make absolutely sure that the deeply human-centered aspect, that core of compassionate patient care, remains undeniably central to how they learn and how they practice?